IVM.
Welcome to episode 96 of the Edges Sledges cricket podcast. We have a full house here today with all three of us joining. DJ is in London. Actually, no, I'm sorry. DJ, you're in India this week, aren't you? With Varun
I'm in Delhi.
Nice. How's the Delhi weather treating you?
It's pretty nice. It's a pleasant 12 degrees with a good covering of haze. So, yeah, enjoying it.
Good covering of haze. That's a phrase nobody's used before. And of course, Varun's joining us from Singapore. Varun, has it been a cricket-heavy week for you? Have you had a chance to watch the games?
Yeah, I've watched most of them, so it's been a great week.
Awesome. I mean, it's not often we get to say not only were there 3 T20s in a week, 5 in the course of just under 2 weeks, and away, India playing down under, or in New Zealand, in the Southern Hemisphere, completely different conditions to what they're used to, have come out victorious 5-0. So let's jump right in. Before we actually talk about it, I want to make sure we do a quick plug. So for those of you who listen to our shows once a week every Monday, of course, thank you for your loyalty and repeat listening. But DJ had an amazing opportunity to chat with former New Zealand cricketer and batting coach Craig McMillan. So we released that as a kind of special episode midweek. So be sure to go check that out. He talks a little about the current series and lots of great stories from McMillan's career. So check that out. That's episode 95. That should be available wherever you listen to podcast. All right, Varun, I'm going to come to you first. Talk me through the third and fourth T20s because, surprisingly, they ended up similar. First time we've seen 2 back-to-back superovers. I think this is New Zealand's 4th superover in the last 6 or 7 months. So, unreal, right? Did you expect that going into this series?
No, not at all. Firstly, I didn't expect a 5-0 scoreline. And secondly, definitely didn't expect 2 superovers. It was almost at a point where in the last ODI, I was feeling kind of bad that there wasn't a superover because it kind of made things exciting. And so some of us were discussing how it feels like WWF, right, when all the entertainment is happening. But it was great for India. I mean, the first superover was actually in the third T20. Shami actually started his last over by giving away a 6, but then came back on the last ball of the match to bowl Ross Taylor and force a tie. So that was very exciting. For me personally, I can't remember the last time I saw India in a super over. I saw them in a bowl out 12, 13 years ago with Pakistan, but I can't remember the last super over. And so Williamson, after hitting 95 and unfortunately being on, well, not the losing end, but the end which you had to tie, basically he had to take the field again. He had to play Bumrah, and he actually did it really well, right? They made 17 off the super over. But when India came out to bat, we found that 17 wasn't enough because Rohit Sharma had a different plan, and he actually hit 2 sixes of the last 2 balls of the game. And that was just unbelievable. And I think Rohit himself said he's never been part of a super over, so he didn't know what to expect. So I think that was absolutely fantastic, and India clinched the series there. It was sad for New Zealand because, they should have won that game comfortably. And then we moved to the fourth T20, and the exact same thing happens. New Zealand is cruising. All of us think they're going to win. And before you know it, in the last over, Shardul Thakur ends up taking, I don't know if he took all 4, there was a run out, but 4 wickets fell in that last over. And then the super over happened again. And it was the same outcome. So Ashwin, completely shocking.
Yeah, outstanding. I mean, so much to unpack there. I do want to caveat, I'm pretty sure Shardul took 2 wickets and there were 2 run-outs. But just still unbelievable to get 4 wickets in the last over. DJ, let's start by talking a little bit about the man Varun mentioned, Rohit Sharma. Coming off the back of two sort of lackluster T20s, you and I chatted last week and I asked, hey, are you concerned about form? And you said, absolutely not. He's one of the legends of the game. Not at all worried about him, worried about form. And he makes 65 runs. And then exactly as Varun said, he said, I didn't really know what to expect, but to finish with 2 sixes in a super over is just magnificent, right? Even at the end, even after the 4th ball of the super over and you need 10 from 2, it was New Zealand's game. So walk me through that. What do you, how does Rohit pull these such things out of his hat?
Yeah, he's one of the biggest 6 hitters in the world. I mean, if you go through the stats, which I'm sure you have done, I think he's got the maximum number of 6s hit by an Indian now. And remember, he was almost run out of the first ball of the super over going for that second run because he really backed himself and his ability to clear the boundary when needed. So, and of course, it was Rahul on the other end, so it wasn't really a mug with the bat. But I mean, Rohit to come out and hit those 2 huge 6s of the last 2 balls to win the game. I mean, completely nerveless. But he's been doing it for a really long time. And I'm thinking back to like 2010, 2011. And I'm thinking of a Mumbai Indians game versus the KKR. And Brendan McCullum is the KKR captain. Or was it 2009 when they had that 8 captain theory and all that John Buchanan had come up with? So Brendan McCullum was the fielding captain or something odd. And I think Rohit was the batsman on strike, or maybe he was at the Deccan Chargers. I can't remember Mumbai Indians or Deccan Chargers. And he takes 24 of the last over to win the game, right? So he's been doing it for a long time. He's just not done it at the international level. I mean, he knows the pressure. He's won IPL matches against the Pune Warriors of the last ball. He's won last year against the CSK of the last ball. He knows what the pressure is when it goes down to that last ball. And I mean, incredible. 10 of 2 is just outstanding. And to hit those 2 sixes when the pressure is on, when Saudi, who's one of the world's best bowlers, maybe not in the super over as we saw in the 4th game as well. But, he just missed his length fractionally and Rohit just put him away for 6. So, yeah, no margin for errors with that kind of limited over batsman, man. Incredible batting. Fantastic. Amazing.
Yeah, really, really well said. I think great summary. And interesting fact about Saudi that you said, he has now bowled in 6 super overs. And after being victorious in the first one, he's lost the next 5 in a row. So hopefully New Zealand has a few weeks, months, years without super overs. But if they have one, I cannot imagine Saudi's going to get the ball again. Varun, let's come to you quickly. I do want to make sure we spend enough time on this show talking about the bowling because we talk about India's batting so much. And the bowlers are really who saved us, if you think about it. But we'll come back to that. I want to chat a little bit more about the batting first, and we'll spend the second half of the show talking about the bowling. Let's talk about Sanju Samson, right? He comes in, gets his slot. I think the previous series he played, he hit 6 and out, so 6 off 2 balls. In this one, in the 4th T20, he hit 8 of 5. In the 5th T20, again, he came up short, hitting 2 of 5. I mean, is this it for him? How do you think about a youngster like him getting great opportunities and not coming good? And how many chances do you need to give a guy like him?
Yeah, so I think it was disappointing for me because I was watching the 4th T20 and he hit a 6 that was just sublime, right? It was just amazing to watch. And he got out literally the next ball or 2 balls later. And so for me, it's just becoming this case of, again, we've gone through it with Rishabh Pant, so much talent, such good skill. They've done well in the domestic seasons, they've done well in IPL, but for me, it was just really disappointing. I really wanted Sanju Samson to kind of succeed. So I don't know what's happening here. I think these guys are probably getting a little bit excited ahead of themselves. The competition is so much. I don't think there's enough time for them to get settled, get their eye in. You're going to get 100 questions about your strike rate, about your shot selection. And so I think that pressure is just building, but honestly, very disappointed.
Yeah, I think well said. It is more sad or upsetting than anything. So, DJ, let me ask you about another player who sort of flattered to deceive, if you will, this time around. He came in he batted all 5 games, made 41 runs, I think it was, with the bat. And then with the ball, bowled a total of 9 overs across the 5 games, picking up 2 wickets. And I'm talking about Shivam Dube. Nice to see them give him an extended run. Nice to see them give him 5 games. Before the series started, or after the 2 games, I think you said we may be looking at a world where he and Pandya both play. So walk me through that. How do you think about Shivam Dube's role in the side now?
Yeah, tough, man. I mean, he had a couple of pretty bad outings after we spoke, and it's what Varun said in a lot of ways. I mean, the competition is so much. The personnel are playing musical chairs constantly. You've got Pant, Samson, KL Rahul, all of who are wicketkeeper batsmen. One day KL Rahul is a front runner, then Samson, who's not even in the squad, comes in and plays the games ahead of Rishabh Pant, who's in the squad but hasn't been given a single game in T20, which is his best format. So it's hard, man. It's hard for these young guys. Shivam Dube has had a short career with India. He looks talented. There are some obvious technical flaws, which will be worked out at this level. And it was good to see him play all 5 games. But again, with him not coming good, I think maybe we are not going to use him as along with Pandey, and it all goes to the strategy again of what the team's going to be. With Pandey coming, which I'm sure we'll talk about in great detail, Dube's lack of performances have now put him back as a backup to Pandya, who's again injured. Of course, he's not part of the New Zealand Test squad and stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of insecurity. I think there's a lot of experimentation as well. And I think India at some point need to draw a line around this experimentation. And it's odd because today would have been a perfect situation to play Rishabh Pant, right? The series is over. It's done. Kohli is rested himself. Rohit is also rested in the previous game. Why not give Rishabh Pant a shot at the top of the order? I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but coming back to the Dube question, I think I'd said yes. I see a world where both of them can play, but 1 week later, and literally that's how fast things move in this universe. I don't know. I don't know anymore because we're like, I think the Indian team management is almost as fickle as its fans. So one day we say this guy is great, next day we say he's out of the team, he's out of the squad, go back and play Ranji, which is what poor Vijay Shankar did before he got called up to the India A squad. So yeah, tough for Dube. Again, not cemented his seat, but still in the reckoning for the World T20.
Yeah, Varun, let me come to you on that. Really interesting discussion, and I'll jump ahead and talk about Rishabh Pant now that DJ mentioned it. So for anybody keeping tabs, I think that's about 9 minutes into the episode we were able to manage without talking about the man Rishabh Pant. But I think DJ's right? If we go back and listen to where our opinions were a year and a half ago, 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, it's evolved so much. One of the things we actually talked about Ajinkya Rahane in the India-South Africa Test series is him being on the bench was the best thing that happened for his brand. Because when he wasn't playing, we kind of overinflated his potential. And so now I'm seeing all these articles fly around, given that Pant didn't play a game in this 5-match series, saying, oh, actually, he should be playing T20s. We rushed him into ODIs. We played too many tests, et cetera, et cetera. But Varun, as a massive Pant fan, how are you feeling? And do you think he deserved a shot in at least one or more of these T20 games?
Yeah, I definitely think he deserved a shot. I'm very confused because, like DJ said, Samson was not even in the scheme of things. You've now brought him in. You're determined to make him open the batting, which to me is just incredible, right? Because Rohit Sharma is now batting at 3 for this game so that Samson gets a chance to play. And I'm coming to Pant, but why I'm saying this is because you are playing a guy who has pretty much no chance of opening for India in the next 12 months. You are force-fitting him into that role because that's where he's seen as supposed to be good. And at the same time, you've got Rishabh Pant, who we all have spoken about his spot as an opener and how it could change his game. It changed it for Rohit Sharma. It changed it for Virender Sehwag. Similar kind of players. And suddenly you've got Rishabh Pant sitting out. So my question is, why have you slotted him into this middle order batsman? He plays top order for, under 19 for Delhi Daredevils or Delhi Capitals. And now you've just decided that he should be sitting out and somebody else will come in and get the opening slot. So I'm just very confused. I think at the same time, I do want to say, I think it's fair for him to sit out because Rahul is keeping well. India needs to try something different. He got a lot of chances, but I just don't think this is good for the guy.
Well said. I couldn't articulate it more clearly. So very, very confusing. Mixed signals. I think that's been the way of the Kohli Shastri era. But being Indian fans, obviously, I decided to focus on the two guys who didn't perform, being Samson and Dube. But, we won the series 5-0. Let's make sure we spend a little time talking about the guys who did perform. So, DJ, since you love this player so much, and I put love in quotation marks, I'm going to ask you about Manish Pandey. He doesn't actually have an average in the series because he was undismissed. So I guess his average was infinity when you try to divide by 0. He struck the ball at 153 for his total of 89 runs. By the way, a better strike rate than Rohit, better strike rate than Rahul, better strike rate than Iyer, better strike rate than Kohli. And he basically got us back into that third T20 when the top order failed. So I think we've discussed this a lot. India has failed in the past because our number 6 batsman wasn't an explosive hitter. But arguably, this one match where he brought you back in because the top order failed was worth it, right? He had a magnificent 50 in that match.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're talking numbers, let's just talk the 5-0 prediction that I made has come true. So I'm really pleased about that, even though there were 2 super overs. So I just wanted to put that out to the universe. But the Pandey question, Ashwin, and I know you were really pleased as well as us in the 4th T20 because when everybody else failed, Pandey was there. He played a nice innings of 50 of 36, which I think was absolutely crucial in keeping us in the game. Very quick between the wickets, excellent fielder as well. But it takes us back to our discussion last week, right? Like, are we going with multi-dimensional players or are we going with specialists? Now, with the multi-dimensional players failing, like Dube, that opens up spots for the specialists like Pandey and Saini. However, what it also does is, if Pandey now fails in even one situation where we are, 50 for 4, right? He will guaranteed sit out the next game because the pressure in that situation is so great, and he dealt with it amazingly in the 4th T20. And I hats off to the guy. Played a fantastic knock. 50 of 36 was a perfect knock in those circumstances. But I can tell you this now: if he had failed, he would not have played another T20 till the end of the cycle right now, because they would have been like, this is your role, you've not performed it, you're done. So it's a very tough situation for Pandey to be in, because he seldom gets an opportunity to play an innings of any substance, and if he doesn't do it, then there will be people calling for his head. So tough situation to be in. Kudos to him to come out of that unscathed and playing, frankly, what was a match-winning innings, if not for Shardul Thakur, who is actually your favorite player, which we will talk about later, I'm sure. So very happy for Manish, and really good to see that innings. But he's in a really tough spot, batting at 6.
I'm going to delay the Shardul discussion as much as possible. Varun, what is your take on this? Because DJ, I know, has one point of view. And I specifically want to ask, we discussed, I think on one of the episodes you weren't here, we talked about the fact that we're batting players kind of out of order. And then Manish, from DJ's standpoint, he said, hey, let's just keep him in the 15 and have him come on to substitute field for somebody, because that's the value he had. So your reaction?
No, so I think he's adding a lot more value than just fielding. I think, I don't know, I personally think India won't carry somebody who won't play just for the fielding. But here's my take, right? Manish Pandey, the guy, I've not been his biggest fan. I don't think he's got the shots. I think he was batting in the wrong position. But in the last 3-4 days, my whole thinking has kind of changed, right? Because I've started to see this a little bit differently. If you analyze the games that India loses, a lot of it comes down to us not being able to consolidate after our top 3 get out. We've talked about this for years on this show, 15 for 3 type of situations. So when India is actually cruising with the top 3, you got to hope that your Pandyas and Iyers can accelerate towards the end, especially in a T20 game, right? That's the baseline coming into playing a T20. But when these guys fail, I think it's very interesting to have this strategy where you've got somebody who can bat with the all-rounders and the bowlers, still keep this game ticking and moving. And I think that's the way India is now looking at this, that they're actually trying to solve for the exact issue that is causing them the losses in high pressure knockout games. And that is the way I see it. And if I think of it from that perspective, suddenly I realize this is probably the right move.
I think really, really well said. I could not agree more. I think the only piece for me that we begin to ponder now is that in India-New Zealand semi-final in England at the World Cup, at 5 for 3 or even 25 for 4, who knows how we would have fared if a batsman like Pandey walked in instead, right? So anyway, I will leave that subtle dig at MS Dhoni aside.
Can I just add one more?
Sure.
Oh, was that a dig at Dhoni?
Well, I was just saying at 25 for 4, maybe if Pandey was in instead, he would have not left the ball outside off stump and would have pushed a little harder for the run.
I'm just going to let that one go outside off stump. But coming back to the Manish Pandey point, I think what will go in his favour is that he's a busy player. And it's a point that Maka brought up on the last podcast. The grounds are big. So power hitters aren't going to be as effective as they were in India or in New Zealand, for example. So that might actually go in Manish Pandey's favour, because he's a busy player, runs fast between the wickets. In fact, both the super over games, he ran through from the non-striker's end on the last ball for a bye. And that actually made an impact in the end.
Yeah, very well said, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that may give on his favour. I have nothing against the guy. I mean, I think he's done his best. He's got a tough spot. He doesn't get a lot of opportunity. When he gets his opportunity, he's done the best he can. And my comment about his fielding was, we've been cynical about fielding before, using Jadeja like we would use Pandey. So I agree he's got batting value. Also, he's done well when he's been given the chance, man. I'm just saying, if he does fail, and in a tough spot, it will be the way the current management is set up. they are going to be paying for his blood, which I feel is unfair in some ways. And it's always been a bit of a tough situation for Manish to deal with.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I hope he continues to get opportunities because he's done absolutely fantastic. All right, before we wrap up the section about the batting and the batsmen, I have to talk about the highest run scorer in the series. I think he made 224 runs, averaged over 50 or 56 actually. Healthy strike rate at about 144. And of course, I'm talking about KL Rahul. So, Varun, before the series, he was a middle order batsman. He's became an opener. He became a wicket keeper. And in the second innings of the fifth T20, when Rohit was retired hurt, obviously Kohli wasn't playing, he became makeshift captain too. Is there anything this guy can't do?
Yeah, I heard he's going to play football next week and then kabaddi the week after that. It's just insane. I mean, talk about having a good period of time. This is KL Rahul's good period of time. How much the guy has struggled. He's gone through a lot. He's been trolled insane amounts. And I just can't believe what we're seeing here. The confidence with which he is batting. Some of the shots he hit today for 6, for 4 are just incredible. So it's really amazing what confidence does to one's game. He's been given that kind of leap of faith where they've given him the gloves as well. I think he's effectively pushed Dhawan out of the T20 squad, which we can talk about later. But I just think it's absolutely fantastic what he's doing. I just hope he keeps going.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think the only other comment I'd add to that is from what I hear, Karan Johar has a new Netflix show about dating. So hopefully as long as they don't have KL Rahul on, that means his fortunes will stay positive.
KL Rahul actually said the Coffee with Karan episode was a kind of personal hit that he needed to wake up. So, yeah, you never know.
Yeah. And so he changed to short sleeves. That's my theory.
Short sleeves with the yellow wristband. So that's kind of somewhere up his forearm, not actually on his wrist. Anyway, always focused on the important stuff, the sleeves, the man buns. That's what you come to Edges and Sledges to listen to. On that happy note, after the batting discussion, we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back to talk more about the fantastic bowling in the India-New Zealand series.
We would like to thank HDFC Life Insurance for supporting this show. HDFC Life Insurance has created an online video series called Behind the Journey with some of the most interesting people from the creative and entertainment industry. It explores the stories that are behind the glitz and glamour of the spotlight and screaming fans. Let's listen to a snippet from the episode featuring actor Jitendra Kumar.
Initially, जब मैं बहुत ऐसे कुछ चीज नहीं वर्क कर रही है एक्टिंग में तो मैं बहुत पैनिक कर जाता था. तो काफी लोग मुझे सलाह देते थे कि नहीं मतलब उतना पैनिक मत कर, मतलब धीरे-धीरे ग्रो करेंगी चीजें. तो जिस तरह से तुम्हारा काम धीरे-धीरे ग्रो करता है, एक दिन में नई चीजें मिलती हैं. आई थिंक तुम्हारा जो फाइनेंशियल साइड है उस पे भी तुम्हें ध्यान देना चाहिए और वो भी धीरे-धीरे डेवलप होता है. वो भी एक दिन में नहीं होता और वो होने लगता है.
As Jitu said, steady growth is a good sign for both your finances and the journey of your dreams. You can watch all episodes of Behind the Journey on the HDFC Life Insurance YouTube channel. That's at youtube.com/HDFC Life. Take control of your personal goals with HDFC Life Insurance's financial solutions. Plan now with HDFC Life Insurance.
Terms and conditions apply. HDFC Life Insurance Company Limited, IRDAI registration number 101.
Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges cricket podcast. DJ, let me come to you first. The highest wicket taker in the series, much to my disappointment, was a guy who bowled 16 overs across 5 matches, and he took 8 wickets. And of course, I'm talking about Shardul Thakur. Do you think he's going to continue to be persisted with? And sorry, I should mention quickly, he was the highest wicket taker, but he was also India's second most expensive bowler, giving an economy rate of 9.81, second only to Dube, who had a horrendous run with 34 in 1 over in the last match. So 8 wickets at an economy rate of 9.81. Is Shardul going to be in the setup for the T20 World Cup?
I think he has to be, man. It'd be pretty harsh to drop the highest wicket taker, guy who put on... Remember the 4th T20 that we saw Pandey scored those runs in? He had a partnership with our very own Shardul Thakur, who got 20 odd out of that as well. So he's decent in the field. It was his throw to Kohli that Kohli relayed. I mean, that was an incredible piece of fielding by Kohli, where he just picked up the throw from the boundary from Shardul, turned around without looking and just smashed the stumps down and changed the whole game. So that aside, I mean, Shardul had a great series. He's done everything that he could to stay in the team, and I mean, if I was him and I had that kind of series, yes, I went for a few runs, but I took important wickets at important times. I was given the opportunity to bowl the last over in the fourth T20 with only 7 to defend. Remember, Shami had 9 in the first game and still managed to take it to a super over. If you drop him, I think there will be so many questions asked. I mean, personally, you may not like him, but I mean, you can't drop a guy who's done that in this series now. It may change by the time the T20 World Cup comes around, but yeah, I think he's waitlisted at the moment. His ticket is going to be confirmed soon.
Just for the record, to set it straight, I have nothing personally against him. I don't dislike the guy. I do not think he belongs. I don't think I've seen enough evidence yet to suggest he belongs in India's first playing 11. But ton of respect. He had a fantastic series. He has shown up really well with the bat, not just in this series, but the previous one too. Varun, let me ask you really quickly. Is Shardul in your playing 11 for the World Cup for T20s?
No, he's not in my playing 11 for any, even my backyard playing 11. He's not in that.
He won't score 227 against him in the backyard.
Unless you played him again when he was like 6 years old, maybe.
I think I would have hit 227 against him. Shardul is not a quality cricketer. I don't know what's happening. He's getting tonked around the park. I don't know how he's picking up wickets. I actually don't think he deserves to be here. And I think India is going to make a massive mistake if they decide that we want Shardul Thakur to be our number 8 batsman. I think India is going to have a massive problem if they play him.
There you go.
But who would you play instead? Would it be Jaddu or who would you play instead of this guy in Australia?
Yeah, I would play Jaddu and Pandya and then take a decision about that, whether you play a 6 specialist bowler or a 6 specialist batsman. That's what I would do. And that's what I'm saying. If you're now thinking Shardul Thakur is Hardik Pandya's replacement, Vijay Shankar's replacement, Shivam Dube's replacement, so effectively Hardik Pandya 4.0, I think we've got some serious issues.
Hardik Pandya 4.0 would also then be Ben Stokes 5.0, I guess, right? Given how we've called it. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying anything against DJ here. I'm just saying I think if India is thinking Shardul Thakur is a solution for our batting, we are in for a big problem in the T20 World Cup.
There you have it. I didn't have to say it first.
Yeah.
All right, DJ, I'm going to keep us moving because we're going to spend forever on this. Yeah. But Let's talk a little bit more about the rest of the bowling. So yeah, Shardul picked up 8 wickets, but he was expensive. He had a good outing in that T20, helping us get to the super over. But let's talk more broadly, DJ, about the bowling. The fact of the matter is India is a chasing side, right? We have always been a much better side at chasing. And we've all been saying, hey, we really need to get better at batting first, defending targets, putting up a strong, solid target. Arguably in the third and fourth T20s, the batsmen did okay. Not great, not bad. But the bowlers are the ones who defended it strongly enough and got us to the super overs. And then, of course, with the bowling, Rohit won us the first super over, you'd say. But Bumrah, Shami, they all stepped up to the plate and had an absolutely magnificent series. So has the Indian bowling attack kind of turned a page, and are we now showing up with much more confidence to be able to defend even kind of average, medium-sized totals?
So I think the bowling attack has always been a good one. Bumrah's back, obviously, that adds a lot. Chahal is bowling pretty well. Kuldeep didn't get a single game, which was interesting, I thought. But to be fair, we had a pretty poor outing with the bat in the last 3 games. I mean, we didn't really. We looked in the third game as well as today's game, the 5th game, like we were going to get many more, but the acceleration never came. So in some ways, we of course bowled well, but I think New Zealand contributed to their own demise in a lot of ways, cracking under the pressure, etc. I mean, to lose a game, and you guys have already said it yourselves, to lose a game when you need 7 of 6 balls from Shardul Thakur over, right? Yes, he did bowl well. Yes, there were some catches that he got wickets, there were runouts and stuff. But, I mean, Varun would back himself to get those runs, right? So I think it would be a false positive in some ways to say that this is a new dawn for the Indian bowling. I like the look of Saini a lot. Chahal bowled well as well. We kept our nerve under pressure. That will go a long way towards helping us. Shami had a good outing as well in the third game. But if we don't play Shardul, I guess the question is who that other bowler is going to be that we're going to take to the World Cup. And if we need to be testing them, we need to be testing them pretty soon. So, Bumrah, class act, had one off day in the third T20, but came back so strongly in the fourth. But I would kind of resist putting too much emphasis on this performance and saying we've solved our problems batting first.
Interesting. Well said. Since DJ mentioned it, Varun, let's talk a little bit about Bumrah. So off day in the third T20, I think the comment you made resonated with me, which is he's gotten to a point where he's gotten such elevated status and is so good that now batsmen just look to play him out. And so, his economy rate will be decent, but wicket taking becomes difficult. And you saw that kind of over the course of this series where in the first 4 T20s, he took a cumulative 3 wickets. And in the last one, he showed up with an absolutely magnificent spell, 4 overs, 3 for 12, got man of the match. So I know it's one game, but are these initial signs that he's starting to figure out how he needs to adapt his game, adapt his bowling to get back to taking wickets?
Yeah, I think he's in that period right now where, if you ask me honestly, I think he's overthinking a little bit. He's a great bowler. He's the best in the world, but he is in this sort of middle phase where I think he's not sure what to do, right? So he had a bad outing in the third T20. I think for Bumrah to give 17 runs even in a super over was shocking for me, but everyone has their off day. I think what was more shocking for me is in the fourth T20 in the super over, Bumrah bowled I think 5 short balls. And that to me was it was insane. And in fact, the 6th ball, he bowled a full delivery, which ended up being a very low full toss, and he got a wicket off that ball. But even the commentators, everyone was talking about why is Bumrah not going for the Yorker? And it started making me thinking that maybe Bumrah believes the batsmen are expecting Yorkers, so he's going to surprise them. And the whole thing it was a bit surprising. So I personally think Bumrah is just going through a little bit of this middle phase where he needs to figure out that he's the best. He needs to stick to his basics. If he's not picking up wickets, it's okay, because eventually he will. And hopefully he realizes that.
Yeah, I think well said. Interesting. We've talked a lot about somebody like Rishabh Pant and how it was a mental game. It was, playing on his mind, weighing down on his ability to show up with the talent. And obviously not to the same extent, but very interesting point of view from Varun that Bumrah's kind of overthinking it now, and hopefully he figures that out. He's absolutely a master with the ball, and I have no doubt he will, but very interesting perspective. All right, guys, we're going to do a final series wrap. I want to put you on the spot, DJ. Who your best player of the series, or let's go with best 2 players of the series. Who would you highlight as having taken the most amount of points home this series?
What, generally, or in terms of selection for the World T20?
This is an interesting question. Why would it be different?
Because you could have a player have one good series, like Shardul had a good series, right?
Okay, so let's ask both. Let's ask both. Let's start with who did you think had the best series?
KL Rahul had a great series. I mean, I think he cemented his spot and selected himself as India's first wicketkeeper, right? So he had a great series despite kind of holing out in that 4th T20 when he had a long hop. But I mean, it happens, I guess, if you're playing attacking cricket. So I think KL Rahul had a great series. And I think Navdeep Saini had a very good series because he actually showed us what he can do with the ball. So those 2 guys had pretty good series, closely followed, I'd say, by Pandey and Shardul, who are competing for that specialist multi-dimensional type spot, depending on which strategy we're using.
There you go. A true cop-out answer where I asked for 2 and you gave me 4. Varun, let me ask you the same question.
Lawyer answer.
There you go. Lots of disclaimers and legalese. Varun, let me ask you the same question, just in terms of who had the best series, and then we'll talk about selection next.
Yeah, so I think KL Rahul and Mohammad Shami.
Interesting. Shami, why Shami in particular, you think?
I just think that the way he held his nerve in that last over, I think the way he's bowling, to me it was just great. I mean, I can't remember how many matches he played, but I remember seeing him in a couple and I thought he was fantastic.
Okay, so let me come to you then and ask the question that DJ sort of suggested. In terms, from the vantage point only of who increased their likelihood of getting selected for the T20 World Cup the most, who are the 2 players you'd highlight there?
I would say Shami and Pandey.
Shami and Pandey. Okay. DJ, how about you? You brought this up. So who are the 2 players you think increased the likelihood of making the play into Australia?
So I think we'd already said, and I think we spoke when we said KL was already on the plane like 2 or 3 months back. He was batting pretty well. I'd say Shardul has increased his likelihood. I know you don't like that, but it just is because he had a good series, to tell the truth. And I mean, they may have been junk wickets, but people will just look at the stats and be like, yeah, he had a good series. The other guy, again, I think I'd have to go with Saini, man, because he's a youngster. He showed he has pace. He's got Yorkers. Shami, I think, was also a certainty on it. So I am with Varun. He had a very good series, and that super over does stick in the mind because it was India's first ever super over. But I think Saini and Shardul have increased their chances of being on that plane to Australia at the end of this year.
Very interesting. So I'll just quickly chime in with my point of view. I think the two players who had the best series are KL Rahul and Manish Pandey. And I think who increased their likelihood, similar to DJ, Rahul was already on that plane. I think Manish Pandey and probably Navdeep Saini increased likelihood of getting on the plane to Australia. I don't know if he'll finally make it, but he definitely did well for himself, and he's still young enough that he's hopefully got a long, bright career ahead of him. Right, so that brings us to a wrap of the India-New Zealand T20 series. We are just about 2 days away from the start of the 3-match ODI series, which is then followed by a 2-match test series. So India stays in New Zealand for a little while. It's interesting, Varun, I think you were saying it doesn't look like they have any matches now, any more T20Is planned between now and the World Cup. Is that true?
I mean, I was looking at the schedule and there was no T20. It showed me the last T20 was today, and the next one I think is India-England on 1st November or something, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, there's not that many T20s. There's not that many international T20s. We've got 60 IPL games coming up, but I'm sure the BCCI post IPL will schedule. It's not been released yet.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think you're probably right. There will be more games slotted in, but that also means there's a lot more pressure on the IPL, and selectors will be watching IPL games very closely, which I think is going to be great. So as we look to wrap up this section, Varun, we're going to talk about this a lot between now and the World Cup, but DJ and I talked this at length in one of the episodes before. Do you want to walk through really quickly who are your folks with a guaranteed seat on the plane to Australia right now? So obviously, I mean, there's probably Rohit and Kohli from a batting standpoint, Bumrah from a bowling standpoint. Who else is guaranteed a seat on the plane to Australia in your mind?
So I think Rahul is guaranteed a seat. I think Hardik Pandya is guaranteed a seat. Chahal is guaranteed a seat. Those, and I would say Shami. I think these are the few who are guaranteed a seat. Iyer as well.
Okay, so that's a total of 8. I think you said 4 batsmen: Rohit, Kohli, Rahul, and Iyer. Pandya is the all-rounder, and Bumrah, Shami, and Chahal. Is that correct?
Yeah, sorry, I have to add Jaddu to that as well.
Man, you're really making me work here. Keep adding one at a time. Should I wait a second? Is there going to be one more added?
Let me think about it. No, that's it.
It's interesting. So you said Chahal, but he doesn't always naturally make the playing 11 in every single game. Do you think he's in the reckoning for a playing 11 slot guaranteed?
Yeah, I think so, because of the large grounds and the wrist spin.
Well said. So, DJ, we have a list of 9 players that Varun thinks are guaranteed on the plane. Any disagreements with the 9 that he mentioned, or any additions to your list?
So I've got Kohli, Rohit, Rahul. I've got Iyer. I've got Hardik if fit, and I've got Bumrah. The rest of them are, I think, I'd say Shami. Shami's probably guaranteed a seat on that plane. And I'd say Chahal and Kuldeep plus Jaddu on that plane.
So
I'm not saying they'll
you've gone through the exact process and ended up with the same list, except plus
because of the ground, right?
Kuldeep.
Because of the size of the ground.
Kuldeep.
Yeah, you could have said the same list plus Kuldeep, but I guess you had to go through
that would only be if I was listening to his list, right? You're assuming I was listening to his list.
That was important. We have lots of people tuned in to listen to us talk, but we don't listen to each other, which is always a nice thing.
That's just wonderful.
Clearly. So Kuldeep and Chahal actually, in all seriousness, because of the size of the ground. So that's why I added Kuldeep to Varun's list.
So that's an interesting place to be.
But everyone else, I think, up in the air.
I think interesting place to be that 9, maybe 10 people are already pretty much confirmed. So everybody else, from the Pandeys to the Dubes to the who are the other bowlers, Sundars and Sainis, and everybody's fighting for those few slots. A few weeks ago, somebody said, one of you guys said was a guaranteed a spot on the plane to Australia, but has fallen out of favor, and he could arguably bat at number 8 and bowl 3 or 4 overs, quick bowling. And I'm talking about Deepak Chahar. What happened? Has he just fallen out of favor altogether?
Oh, damn! I forgot about Chahar completely.
Yeah, exactly. So,
oh man!
So is that it? Are
yeah,
we just done with it?
I don't know, man. I think a lot depends on the IPL, but I think Shami will be favored over Chahar. And if you're playing Pandya, Bumrah and Shami, there's not that much more scope. So unfortunately, I think I was wrong when I said Chahar is definitely on the plane.
Just to add to that, Shardul Thakur, is the same player as Deepak Chahar, pretty much, but Chahar can bat as well, and bowls is a better bowler than Shardi to all of our minds. But it's just random that he's no longer playing. He had one injury, and he's completely fallen out of favor. So, as you said, Ashwin, and very rightly, the IPL will actually determine players who are in form, players who do well in the IPL will be on that plane. So a lot of this is subject to the performances in the IPL. So I have added my additional loyalty caveat to this squad.
Yeah, definitely not putting a stake in the ground at all. I mean, the last T20 Chahar played, he bowled 4 overs, took 2 for 20 against the West Indies, which was just in December. He did have a couple mixed outings, if I remember, in the other 2 T20s. One, he gave over 50 runs. But it's very interesting to me that he's fallen out of favor because on a big ground, you argue that maybe he would struggle a little bit, but on an Australian pitch that will, at least early on, get a little bit of swing, he could be able to extract it. So,
and head to head, Shardul and him, Deepak Chahar just comes out ahead, right? I mean, any day. He can bat better and he bowls better. He's got that lovely outswing.
You're preaching to the choir. I couldn't agree more. And from Varun's rant earlier, he probably agrees with us too.
Now, all right. Our listeners are just loving this Shardul chatter. I'm going to stop now.
Yeah, I know I tried to delay it as long as possible in the episode, but hey, again, nothing against the guy. Great player. He's done really well for himself. I just do not think he belongs in the India setup. But I mean, hey, it's always good to see players try to prove us armchair critics wrong. So one final thing, obviously, before we wrap up this week's show, a lot is happening by way of action from the Under-19 Cricket World Cup. We are at the semi-final stage as we record this. India's playing Pakistan on, I think it's Tuesday, the 4th of Feb, or at least Tuesday, my time zone. The India-Pakistan meet in the semi-finals, but a lot of drama happened in the Afghanistan versus Pakistan quarter-final match, which Pakistan ended up victorious in, but there was an incident of a monkard which went viral on Twitter, and as always happens when there's a monkard, there's a heated debate on both sides. So, Varun, what's your point of view on the monkard? Has it changed at all over the last little bit?
I think it has changed. I'm more in favor of not removing the rule now. I don't know. I think I've read up a little bit over the last couple of days, and I think it's a rule, and bowlers are in their kind of fair right to do it. It's part of the ICC rules.
But when Ashwin did it to Butler in the IPL, I think you were sort of okay with it, right? You weren't opposed back then either.
Yeah, I don't think I was opposed back then, but I was on the fence. Now, right. I mean, I've just seen a little bit more over the last couple of days, and I'm just like, if it's a rule, everyone plays by that rule, and if it's a problem, get rid of it.
Yeah, I think I'm 100% on the same page. I'm pretty sure DJ feels the same. So, but DJ, I'm going to ask you more about the discussion on the social media and Jimmy Henderson and Ravi Ashwin and what's going on, man. What a time to be alive.
So it is awesome, but the sad part is we only see one part of that discussion because the other tweets are unavailable because Jimmy's blocked us, right? So our kind listeners, Nikhil Arde, etc., have been giving us screenshots of what Jimmy has been saying. And Jimmy was like, oh, this law needs to be fixed and stuff. No, the law is clear. The law says don't leave your ground before the bowler has bowled the ball, pretty much, in simple words. And he's like, oh, sort this law out, MCC. And Ashwin is like, no, bro, the law is clear. And then Ashwin trolls Jimmy. And that was like the best part. He talks about like the shredder. Because remember when Ashwin monkarded Butler, they shredded a picture of Ashwin. And that was the trigger for us being blocked as well. Because we made some stupid joke about Jimmy Anderson. And Ashwin actually trolls him saying law removal might need some deliberation. A shredder might do the trick for now. So he's kind of letting Jimmy know that I'm watching you, bro. So awesome social media game from Mama or Anna, depend on how you want to call him.
Yeah, I mean, when he's not making waves or news on the field, he's definitely always doing it off the field. So exciting. Be sure to tune in and support our boys at the Under-19 World Cup semi-final as we face off against Pakistan on Tuesday. And hopefully we'll be back next week talking about a little more positive news and a good finish to the Under-19 World Cup from India's standpoint. All right, gents, that brings us to our wrap. We are about 48 hours at the time of recording away from the first ODI. I want to ask you both really quickly as we wrap up, prediction for the 3-match ODI series. I can already kind of guess where DJ is going, so Varun, let me start with you.
Let me guess Varun's actually 2-1. Let me go with 2-1 for Varun.
Okay, DJ's predicting.
I said 4-0.
DJ's predicting that Varun will say 2-1. Of course, he says 4-0 in the 3-match series. So quality high.
Maybe we should start predicting what each other are going to predict. That's a good.
Okay, so DJ predicts Varun will predict 2-1. Varun, what do you predict DJ will predict? 4-0?
4-0.
4-0.
Absolutely quality discussion.
Man, if I put some money on the 5-0, that would have been an awesome bet, dude. Wow.
It really would have.
With 2 superovers. Yeah, it would have really paid off. So follow us for fantasy tips, guys.
Always. As we get closer to the IPL, for sure we will. Go ahead, Varun.
Superover wouldn't have counted in the bet, so you would have lost.
Ooh, I wonder if you're betting on 5-0 or you're betting on 5-0.
Yeah, it was a 5-0 now.
Anyway,
extra time doesn't count anyway. Yeah.
So does that? I guess that means people who bet on England winning the World Cup didn't actually win that bet. Is that how that worked?
No, they won. They won, but they didn't win the final.
Oh, I guess that's what you're...
Controversial.
Anyway,
Controversial.
That's kind of what Macca was saying on your episode too, right? Where he said, we didn't lose. There was no winner, but somebody won the World Cup. There was no winner of the final, but somebody won the World Cup. So anyway.
They won it according to the rules.
Right. As the quality of our conversation starts to devolve, I think that's as good a time as any to call it a wrap. Gents, thanks for joining. Fantastic T20 series. Really, really excited to see 10 months out of the World Cup, India beating New Zealand 5-0. Let's hope we can keep the momentum up. 3 ODIs kick off on Tuesday, and we'll be back with you guys in about a week's time to talk about how the ODIs are going and probably flip-flop again on some players because they've had 1 or 2 outings, but that's just the life of being an Indian cricket fan. With that, thanks for joining us. Be sure to send us messages however you want, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're at OneTipOneHand, and we will join you guys again in about a week's time. Thanks for listening.
I hope you enjoyed that show. We'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week. Thank you, HDFC Life, for coming on board. Also, would like to thank Storytel for continuing the long time advertising that they've been doing with us. And if you have a brand and you'd like to advertise with us, please send us an email. We'd love to talk to you. And let me tell you a couple of things that you should check out this week. On Tapri Tells, Madhuri tells the story of Manjula Taylor, who stitches buttons on each piece of clothing as she paves her way as a working mother. On the Pragati podcast, Amol Agarwal gives Pawan a tour of the rise of modern banking in India. On Edges and Sledges, there's a bonus episode out where DJ, Ashwin and Varun have a special guest on, Craig McMillan, former New Zealand cricketer. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam is joined by Avinash Luthria, a SEBI-registered investment advisor, to talk about 5 common misconceptions around investing. On Pulya Bazi, hosts Saurabh and Pranay discuss the randomized control trials that led to the economics Nobel Prize. Thanks and keep listening.
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे पॉडकास्ट लगते हैं. नाम है फुटबॉल शुटबॉल.
Presenting Football Shortball, a show about 3 friends discussing our favorite game over a beer. Sometimes 3, maybe even 5. Hi, I'm Shiva, and with me are my 2 sidekicks, Gaurav Sapre and Karthik Iyer.
Sidekick? You mean like Batman's Robin or Van Persie Robin?
No, I mean like Alexis Sanchez, but with a little more skill than just playing the piano.
Ha, just shows how the best players at Arsenal are mere bench warmers at United.
Oh, thank you, Iyer. But you're a Fulham supporter, so whenever you say anything to support me, I question my beliefs.
Just like how Griezmann would say, एक बार मैंने जो decision ले लिया, तो मैं अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनता.
Banter aside, we will talk match reports, transfer rumors, top controversies, fantasy football picks, and so much more. So grab a beer and tune in to Football Shootball every Wednesday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts.